Hello, and welcome to my channel, The Entrepreneurial Mindset. My name is Jay Berman, and today's presentation is Essential Business Law Concepts, Episode 4, December 10th, 2025. The concepts in this video come from my book, The Manual of Essential Business Concepts, which is available on Amazon.com, either as available as a Kindle paperback or hard copy. Versions are available. And here is the link to purchase the book. Go to www.amazon.com/author/my name, Jay Berman. Thank you. And by purchasing the book, you support my work in business education. So today I'm going to do a deeper dive into the small claims court process. I'm going to discuss the procedures that the plaintiff must follow, and there are the procedures that the defendant must follow, and then there is the what happens during a court appearance and when a verdict is made by the judge. So why do states have small claims courts? Well, it allows people to settle disputes without lawyers, because lawyers can be very expensive. They can be $50, $100, $150 an hour. Most people can't afford private lawyers. So it's the court system's way of allowing people to settle disputes up to a certain amount of money. And again, these are civil courts, not criminal courts. So you won't need a lawyer to file a small claims court. So who are the players in a claim? First, you have the plaintiff, which can be a person or a business. The defendant can also be a person or business. So you can have a person suing a person. You can have a person suing a business. You can have a business suing a person. You can also have a business suing another business. And you can also have multiple plaintiffs and multiple defendants. You can have one plaintiff suing two or more defendants, or you can have plaintiffs suing more than one defendant. The most common disputes, and again, small claims court, these are civil courts. Usually the most common dispute is a breach of contract or torts. So torts, in one of my previous videos on essential business law concepts, torts are involved negligence. So for example, if you buy a good and you are injured, either your property is injured or you are physically injured or both, then those would fall under tort or negligence laws. The other reason that people sue each other is contracts. In other words, either party fails to meet their obligations regarding a contract, or sometimes there is a dispute on whether a contract even existed. Lawyers are not allowed in small claims courts, so you don't have to worry about hiring a lawyer. They're not allowed in small claims court. And there is a maximum claim, which is dependent on state law. So for example, in Idaho, the maximum is $5,000. In the state of Oregon, the maximum is $10,000. So what happens before you go to small claims court? Well, if you are the potential plaintiff, you have to try to resolve the dispute with the alleged defendant before filing a claim. And what you have to do is the plaintiff has to make a reasonable offer to settle the dispute. Of course, the defendant could reject that offer and make a counter offer. So in other words, both parties have to resolve the dispute before they go to small claims court. And of course, the burden of trying to resolve the dispute would be the potential plaintiff, the one who is claiming that they've been injured in some way, either monetarily injured or physically injured or both. And of course, any attempts to negotiate to settle the dispute should be in writing. So otherwise, texts, emails, letters, documents, that type of stuff. Well, if the plaintiff and the defendant cannot settle their dispute before going to court, then this is where the plaintiff will, of course, file a claim in their town or city. And a lot of nowadays, because of the internet, you now file a claim online. You don't fill out paperwork and go to court. You can actually do everything at home online. So the plaintiff has to submit their name, their address, their phone and email address, and they also have to submit the defendant's name, address, and phone. Of course, if the defendant is a business, you need to tell in your filing the name of the defendant, which would be, I guess, the business owner or the business manager, the name of the business, the address, location of the business, and of course, the phone number of that particular business. Again, that's in the case if you're suing a business. Now, there is a claim form that you fill out. In other words, here you are stating the reason why you're suing. This is where you provide written evidence, facts, and details. This is where you also need to mention your attempt to negotiate or settle the dispute that was rejected by the defendant. And again, this is where you really need to have good writing skills. Good writing skills are absolutely essential because your case has to be coherent. It has got to be logical, and of course, it has to be legal. In other words, there has to be a legal reason why you are suing somebody. And again, the legal reason would be most likely a breach of contract or a tort situation where you were injured in terms of your property or your physicality or both. And again, in terms of evidence, the evidence has to be in writing. So what you want to do is make photocopies of texts, any letters, any emails. It can't be a he said, she said, he said, he said, she said, she said type of situation. Okay, it has to be where the conversation was in writing, and then again, you tried to settle the dispute before you came to court. So a claim involves monetary damages. So how much are you suing the person or business? How much do you feel that you're entitled to? And court fees. So the court fees are two. There's one is the filing fee that you have to pay when you file or submit a claim in small claims court, and a servicing fee. And I'll explain what a servicing fee is in just a minute or two. So filing fee, for example, in Idaho is $69. So the court's trying to make it affordable for everybody to file a claim. So this is why you don't need a lawyer. It's only $60. So in Idaho, it's just $69. You do have to pay a separate servicing fee. That's usually between $80 and $200. And again, you have to calculate the claim by justifying it with evidence. Okay, again, photographs, written evidence, stuff like that. And you can upload your evidence to support your claim when you do file. You can upload it to the court's online system. So again, evidence could be things like damages to your property, photos of physical injuries, photos of texts, emails, letters, contracts, bills, documents. The plaintiff pays the court filing fee, And then, of course, once you submit the claim, the court will review it, and they can either accept it or reject it. Most likely, they're going to accept it. There are very few reasons that they reject it. They might reject it because you didn't submit a filing fee, things like that. It's mostly administrative reasons why your court case will be rejected. The clerk of the court does not determine whether you have a good case or not. Next, the plaintiff must hire a servicer, a server. And a server is the person who delivers the summons in person to the defendant. So when it comes to when you're serving somebody, the summons the defendant has to get that the document, the court summons in person. You can't mail it to them. That person has to be what they call served. In other words, they have to get the documents that says, yes, I am being sued by so-and-so in court, and this is the reason, okay? And a server can be the police or sheriff. You can hire them to do it. There are a lot of companies that are private servers, or you can hire a disinterested person uninvolved in the case. Now, the defendant must accept the summons. So let's say you are suing a business owner and they are there when the server arrives. The business owner can't lie and say, well, I'm not here, or I'm not going to speak to somebody, or I'm not going to, I'm not going to waste my time talking to the server. This defendant, as long as the defendant is on property, whether at home or in an office, in their office or at home, they have to accept the summons. They have to acknowledge that they are being sued. It's not something that they can avoid. Now, if a server goes to somebody's house or somebody's business and that person is legitimately not there, then the server has to try again. And then once the defendant gets the court papers, gets the summons, and they've been served, the defendant must submit to the court proof that the defendant has received the court documentation, the court summons. So who can be servers? As I mentioned, it can be the police or the sheriff. They do charge a fee, so you have to figure out how much that is. In Idaho, it's $200. You also have to figure out how many attempts they're going to make. Are they going to make 1 attempt, 3 attempts, 5 attempts, 10 attempts? That's an important issue to think about. What's the hours of delivery? Now, if it's the police or the sheriff's office, they're generally going to try to serve somebody between 8 to 5. Now, that might be a problem because maybe the business owners doesn't work. It's not there from 8 to 5. Maybe they work in the evenings or at night. Now, if you try to serve somebody who is a person and you try to serve them at their residence, well, 8 to 5 may not work because they may not be home because they might be working. And the server just can't leave the documents at a person's house or business. Again, you have to literally take the document and put it in their hands and say you've just been served. The server also has to show proof of delivery. This is usually sent to the plaintiff via email, and in this proof of delivery, it will note the time, the date, the time, and the name of the server, their signature that they indeed did serve the defendant. Now, if you do a private company, again, just find out what their fees are. They're generally cheaper than the police or the sheriff. Again, you have to ask them how many times are they going to attempt to serve somebody. Is it once? Is it 3 times? It could be up to 10 times. You have to figure out what their hours of delivery are. So if you are suing a business, if you are suing a person, you may want to ask the private server, will you deliver after 5 o'clock in the evening and on weekends. That might be important to you. And again, they will send you proof of delivery via email, and they'll have the date, time, the name, signature of the server. Now, you can also hire what they call a disinterested person, someone who's not really involved in the case. You can hire a family member, or you can hire a friend. They can serve somebody, but they must sign an affidavit that they did indeed serve the defendant in person, that they actually did give the documents to the person who's being sued. So yeah, so you can hire a family member, friend, and that's usually the cheapest way, because most family members and friends, they're not doing it's not part of it's not their business. Just doing it, to help out the plaintiff. Now, once the defendant receives the summons, they usually have to respond within 21 days. If not, the plaintiff wins by default. So if the defendant does not respond to the summons to the claim, maybe with a counterclaim or their own evidence of why the plaintiff's case should not go to court, or it's they have to explain they have to refute what the defendant is claiming, and that has to be in writing, and it has to be done within 21 days. If not, the plaintiff wins by default. What the plaintiff will do is go to the court and claim victory by default, because the defendant did not respond within the 21 days. If the defendant does respond, then the court will set a date. Nowadays, the small claims court will hire a mediator first to try to resolve the case. If mediation fails, then the judge will then hear the case. Once the judge renders his or her verdict, if the plaintiff wins, the defendant pays the claim, the case is closed. If the defendant wins, then the case is closed as well. And then once the case is closed, there are no appeals beyond small claims court. And that's what I have for today. Any questions or comments, please use the comments section below. Subscribe to my channel for more entrepreneurial content educational content about entrepreneurship. And I thank you for watching.